Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Mitch. Good Thursday morning to you all. I hope you guys are doing great out there this morning and having a fantastic start to your day. And I hope you all have been having a great first week of 2024 out there and just a great start to the year in general. Here to give you some updated information about what's going to happen weather-wise for your Thursday. We always do that in the beginning of these morning videos. If you're not interested in that and what's going to happen, weather-wise for today, definitely skip ahead if you're tuning in because you want to know what's going on with this weekend storm or the storm next week. Timestamps will be up for you guys to take advantage of and utilize. So definitely utilize them for sure. But we got a lot to talk about. We'll talk about today. We'll talk about the storm system this weekend as it chugs eastward. The latest information from the models from overnight into this morning. And then, of course, we'll give you some updated information about the big storm system next week also. We'll be able to get much more detailed on that as we get a little bit closer, as we move past this storm system this weekend. But as we get into tomorrow, Saturday, we will get much more detailed about the system next week. But just like we've been doing, we'll get pretty detailed in this video also for you folks for next week. Then, I'm watching an Arctic air mass that's looming. I really think this one's for real. It's just trying to figure out who's going to see the brunt of it. And I think this moves in after all this stuff that's out ahead of us with these two storm systems. So we'll kind of talk about that at the very end of the video, but that will be a bigger topic here in the future. So if you folks have not subscribed, certainly consider doing that. Like the video if you like it. Thank y'all for all the amazing support over the last several weeks. It means the world. And if you guys got anything that I can pray about or pray over, as always, please put those in the comments below. Gives me an opportunity to pray over it, and it gives others an opportunity to do so too. So I just noticed I don't have my pen pulled up in this video, but I don't think we'll need to draw much, so I think we're good. Let's get rocking and rolling here. We got a lot of moisture entering the Pacific Northwest, rain and higher elevation snow, just like it normally is out here and out west. And then look at the heavy snow starting to brew here in New Mexico. We got some snow falling in Colorado. I think some of this probably ain't hitting the ground, but this will become a bigger thing throughout the next several hours into this afternoon. This area of energy will chug eastward, bring some snow to the panhandle of Texas, Oklahoma, and then eventually Kansas. And we could get some light snowfall accumulations even to Missouri and Arkansas, northwest Arkansas, tomorrow morning. We'll watch for that. Injection of cold air has fully moved over the Great Lakes region, so we're getting some lake effect snow streamers, lake effect snows off all the Great Lakes, Superior, Ontario, Erie, Huron, and Lake Michigan. And then we got this, area of light precipitation. You guys will have to let me know what you're actually seeing out there. But it looks like the cold air is trying to catch up with this light precipitation in southern New England. Might switch to some light snow at the back end of this. This is not a big deal at all. This won't be a story at all by the time we get to lunchtime today. So that's what's going on for today. What about the Storm Prediction Center? Just a general risk of thunderstorms in areas of Texas and New Mexico. I don't think this will be a big deal. No severe weather expected today whatsoever. So that's good. Excessive rainfall outlook. There is a very small marginal risk from just about Corpus Christi to Houston. So, the 5% risk, at least a 5% risk of flash flood guidance being met. Not a big deal at all today. Watches and warnings. We're beginning to get littered with them. That's for sure. Winter weather advisories up for almost all the northern counties, the far northern counties of Oklahoma, almost the entire panhandle of Texas. Definitely the entire panhandle is only 3 counties of Oklahoma. And man, goodness, a lot of Kansas has winter weather advisories. Not the entire state, but a lot of counties do. And they're starting to get closer to Missouri and even Arkansas. We'll see if we'll get some in maybe as far south as Oklahoma City, maybe Tulsa. I don't think so. I think this is a couple counties just north of Tulsa from what I'm eyeballing here. But look at this. Winter storm watch is up for Western North Carolina. And I think this is mainly because confidence for ice is very high at this point. We'll talk more on that here a little bit deeper in the video. But of course, you got ongoing winter weather advisories, winter storm warnings in northern New Mexico. And we have winter storm watches that have been issued ahead of another blast of moisture over these higher elevations that will produce heavy snow. Some winter weather advisories up here in the northeast of Minnesota. So a lot beginning to crank up out there, that's for sure, and a lot on the way. The southeast, any moisture was an interesting kind of event yesterday. We had a little bit of snow. I joke around on Twitter and call northeast Alabama Montana because it just seems like it's just a different world, northeast and northern areas of Alabama. But somebody sent me a video on Twitter. It was snowing a little bit of a mixture up there. Not a big deal, but some areas saw some sleet yesterday, some snow mixing in with the rain. And then we had some light snowfall accumulations in the southern apps, kind of like what we were expecting, even in areas of like the Tennessee Valley. Kind of the Tri-Cities region saw a little bit of a dusting depending on where you were. But this is heading off, not a big deal anymore, and we'll go throughout our day. Some light showers are possible in southern Florida. And then we just move on throughout the afternoon, the evening, overnight tonight, and then Friday morning. And here comes our storm system entering the picture that will come together and eventually move up the spine of the apps in the eastern U.S. in general. But today, quiet day. Northeast, it's starting off with a little action, a little lake effect snow flying around in areas of the interior Northeast. The HRRR model is not showing that light precipitation over areas of southern New England very well, but you guys got to let me know what you're actually seeing out there. I have not looked at the radar or like the reports or anything like that this morning, but you could, end with a period of light snow in southern New England. I have my doubts on it, but it's possible. Little piece of energy flies through up here. This could deliver some light snow across northern Maine. And I think later this afternoon, some light rain to snow showers could drift from the central sections of New England into southern New England. We'll see what happens with that. It won't be a big deal whatsoever. So we get into this evening, we're getting into the overnight hours, and then we could have a little bit of lake effect snow off Lake Ontario, might drift into the Syracuse area, Rochester region, maybe Watertown a little bit later tonight. Not a big deal at all. South central U.S., this is when this system begins to move in. We'll continue to see moderate to heavy snow across northern New Mexico, even southern Colorado, as we're getting, and this is in Eastern time. So, this is 2 p.m. So this would be 2 p.m. Let me test something really quick. Let's see. We're gonna do this on the fly here. Nah, it's not working. We're just getting all over the place now. So let's just go back to this. Yeah, this is 3 p.m. 3 p.m. this afternoon. I don't know why I'm trying to second guess myself here. I was wondering if this was should be in 2 p.m., but I think this is 3 p.m. Eastern time. So back this up an hour. But I think Tropical Tidbits adjust the hours, unlike Weather Bell. But anyways, this afternoon, some snow will move into the panhandle of Texas and Oklahoma, moderate to heavy at times. All rain points south, but you're getting into this evening, 6, 7 p.m. Look at this snow flying around. Amarillo points north into the, into the 3 counties in the panhandle of Oklahoma. You continue to move your way into the overnight hours. This snow begins to make its way into like Garden City, Dodge City. Might start out as a little rain, and then eventually makes its way all the way to like Hutchinson, Wichita. If you see me looking at my Google Maps, because I want to start to mention some towns and communities in these regions. All rain for Oklahoma City later tonight into the wee hours of the morning. Then you're waking up tomorrow morning, and look at this around Tulsa. Rain switches to heavy snow. Moderate to heavy snow. And we got to watch this. And eastern Oklahoma also, this could certainly be a thing. Trying to mention some towns. What is that? McAllister could see some snow points east. So as we're getting into Friday morning, this could move into like Fayetteville, Rogers, Fort Smith. You could be greeted with some snow, maybe heavy at times, waking up tomorrow morning. This storm is the northern extent of this is trying to begin to fizzle out, but there's still a stripe of moderate snow all the way back here into southern sections of Nebraska, still falling and accumulating. And then it tries to make it to Kansas City. I'm all over the place this morning. Tries to make it to Kansas City. It still snows in like northern Arkansas. And then this, northern portion of this kind of begins to fizzle out. But even tomorrow evening, you're still dealing with snow kind of flying around here and in Wichita, might make it up to Lawrence and just areas of Emporia and just south. My phone is not lighting up, so it's very hard to see it. That's why I'm struggling to look really hard here. Portions of southeast Kansas could certainly see some snow flying around even tomorrow evening. This isn't this evening. This is tomorrow evening. You're still dealing with some mix, and this will continue to head on off, and we'll see about this area right here. We'll talk more on that here in a second, but we're getting into tomorrow at this point. Snowfall accumulations, a broad look, several inches. Northern New Mexico, southern Colorado, especially in these higher peaks where you can get like 8 to 12 inches. But then you begin to zoom into these regions right here. And let's go on and do that. Here it is. 3.5 inches of snow is possible in the far southeast sections of Colorado. We start to get into the southern counties of Kansas, and you're looking at, for example, like Dodge City, Could get a couple inches of snow. Greensburg, a couple inches of snow. Woodward, maybe a half an inch of snow. Amarillo, 1 to 2 inches of snow. And then the far northern counties, northwest counties in the panhandle of Texas, a little bit more, I do think. And then, you start to make yourself a little bit further east and the confidence begins to drop off. But, you are calling for a little snow. I think the National Weather Service in Tulsa has not really updated their graphics. And that's why you have this weird gap right here. But I do think this will get filled in when we make a video this evening. And there will be some forecasted snow amounts from the National Weather Service, even in northeastern Oklahoma. But you see some showing up in northwest Arkansas. So we'll see what happens. But if you compare this with the Euro still likes eastern Oklahoma with a couple inches. Even throws an inch and a half in Tulsa, Fayetteville, Fort Smith, inch and a half of snow from the Euro. What about my opinions on this? I think a good 2 to 3 inch snowfall in southern Kansas is good. I think 1 to 2 inches in the northern counties of Oklahoma is good. And I think someone's going to get a little bit of surprise in this region tomorrow morning. What that surprise is, it's hard to tell. Could get an inch of snow up in Kansas City. So we'll see what happens with this. This is still a question mark on how east this stays together in the cold air with snow. North central U.S., it's a quiet day for the most part. Some snow in the eastern UP, sometimes I like to call it the panhandle of Michigan, UP of Michigan. And then we get into this overnight hours into tomorrow morning, and then some snow tries to make it all the way up into southern sections of Nebraska. I think it will, and some light snowfall accumulations are expected there. Other than that, quiet. Western U.S., this system continues to chug through. We've already talked about it, and then another system's already entering the Pacific Northwest. Rain, lower elevation snow in the Cascades, moving into the northern Rockies, Idaho, and we're getting into this evening, getting into the overnight hours. There's that snow flying around for Idaho, western Montana, northern Nevada, and then even more moisture continues to funnel in. There's multiple areas of energy moving into the western U.S. They'll eventually kind of link together in the central and eastern U.S. and continue to pump out storm systems. But rainfall between now and the next 24 hours. This is precipitation. A quarter inch in the valleys, Oregon and Washington, down to northern Cal. You look at snow with this, if we can click on it correct. Snow from this, higher elevation snow, just like there typically is, several inches expected, maybe a foot, definitely a foot in other areas. And, you start to look at, let's see if we can get it to Idaho. This is how much snow is expected between now and the next 24 hours. Maybe a dusting even in some of the valley regions. Higher elevations, a few to several inches of snow expected. And certainly California will get theirs with this. Let's go down to California. And, not much snow, if any, really expected over the next 24 hours. Northern California, a little bit. As far as precipitation, I don't think we'll get a whole lot either. I think it'll be mainly pretty chill today. So I think that'll change as we get into the next couple of days, though. Temperatures today, you're 9 degrees here in the Adirondacks of New York for a high, so that's pretty cold. When you see a cold air mass like this ahead of a storm system, I think this is going to help snowfall accumulations, but I still think you'll struggle in areas. But it's going to be cold ahead of the storm. 30s for highs along the I-95 corridor, get down to the 40s in Virginia. Higher elevations of West Virginia, and North Carolina will stay below freezing, if not close to it. Even a chilly day in the Mid-South, 40s, even some 30s for highs. Look at northern Alabama, northern Mississippi, 40s. Some of those kind of higher hills, I know that you have in northeast Alabama, you'll struggle to get out the 30s today. And then the upper Midwest, finally seeing winter-type temperatures, well below freezing up here. Texas, chilly day. Western U.S., around average, slightly below average where you're getting some precipitation in, some cloud cover. But definitely stay tuned to your local people in these areas. So, deep breath. Moving forward, starting off late Friday evening, tomorrow evening, we're this close to it now. 1,005 millibar low. Developing and starting to deepen. It'll probably maintain strength for a period. We're getting into the middle of the night tomorrow night. This is what I'm watching, and I don't want to leave. I know the brunt of this is going to be in this area, but I want to watch this area right here, south of St. Louis, southern sections of Illinois, Kansas. There could be a stripe of light to moderate snow on the front end of this, and this continues to be supported by model guidance. And here it is, snow showing up in kind of south central Illinois, trying to get into the Indianapolis area. At the same time, you have ice taking over western North Carolina, the higher elevations of it. higher elevation, snow at first, but even you guys will mix with ice eventually. You keep this going, and we're waking up Saturday morning. Look at this heavy snow in northern Kentucky showing up. Lexington, Dayton, Cincinnati, Louisville, maybe a burst of heavy snow at the beginning of this event. And you got this heavy snow in northern Indiana too. I would say moderate snow, and just some on and off snow, I think, with a lot of energy on top of this main energy flying through the Great Lakes region. That'll just give you guys light to moderate snow on and off. I really do think. But this has the potential, and I haven't really said these two words, but to be an all-out ice storm for certain areas of Virginia and North Carolina. There's winter storm watches up for a reason. But man, the compartment right here, right into this region, heavy snow right off the bat, and then you'll switch to probably ice. So I don't know if this weekend is the best weekend to go to the mountains of like North Carolina, because I do think you'll get maybe some snow at first, but I think you'll quickly switch to a nasty mixture of like freezing rain. But you continue to get into Saturday afternoon from the Euro. Look at this heavy snow in western Maryland, southern PA. A lot of energy over the Great Lakes, but nothing too crazy. 1,003 millibar low cruising over eastern North Carolina. You're maintaining ice in northwest Virginia, West Virginia. And then you get north. This thing begins to crank up again. All rain for the Delmarva. Snow moving into northern New Jersey, Philadelphia. You're hanging on to any kind of wintry mix for dear life. This is all rain for Baltimore and for Washington, D.C., unfortunately, for you folks tuning in. This is looking more and more like more so a rain event. But I would not rule out completely any kind of winter weather at all. But to keep going, look at this heavy snow up to Scranton now. I think you'll get some moderate to heavy snow in State College. Almost said State College. I think I did. But Harrisburg now, you're trying to mix the rain, but we got to watch. I can tell you the general theme overnight has been a northern trend and a stronger system, so more amped up. So, we thought we were losing the system 2 days ago. Like clockwork, it's ticking back and forth, the windshield wiper effect. But New York City right in here, as we know, Long Island, it's all rain as you're getting into Saturday evening. There's your time frame. There's your timestamps right in here. Okay, it's around 10 p.m. Eastern time. Heavy snow up in the Poconos, the Catskills. Snow moving into southern New England. You got a 997 millibar low well off the coast. There just ain't a whole lot of cold air. This is actually a really good track. Just not a ton of cold air. But, you got to watch this heavy wet snow, because you're going to have a flow off the ocean from a relatively warm ocean up here, 45, 50 degree ocean surface temperature. So this is going to be moving over. This is going to be bringing a lot of warm, moist air into this area. So this could have an effect on some of these snow forecasts you're seeing. But you're getting into the middle of the night Saturday. Heavy snow up in the Binghamton now, showing up Albany, southern New England, just north of New York City is getting blasted with heavy snow. The immediate city struggling with mixing. And then look at this heavy snow moving into Boston, Rhode Island, Connecticut, Southeast Mass. I mean, this turns into a pretty quick hitting, I wouldn't say quick hitting, 24-hour event. I would say 24 to 30-hour event, and it's snowing like crazy when you're waking up Sunday morning in Boston. This thing tries to crank up at the last second, bring heavy snow to southern New Hampshire and Vermont, heavy snow into the eastern sections and southern and down east regions of Maine, and then this heads off, and we could have some back-end energy, throw some northwest snow over the Appalachian Mountains. What about the GFS? Same thing. Look at all that ice showing up in western North Carolina. Look at the snow showing up over the Ohio Valley, the Midwest. You keep this going, stays ice all the way through mid-morning Saturday morning. Snow starting off at first in the higher elevations of West Virginia and Virginia. But look at the snow. Same thing with the Euro. Starting off with snow in northern Kentucky. Evansville, I think it'll be rain, but we'll see. Southern sections of Ohio, maybe some snow, but it quickly transfers and goes away. But I do think you could have a period of maybe getting some accumulation. But you get all the way to Saturday afternoon, and it's still icing. I think some areas in Virginia, even North Carolina, could have a worrisome period of freezing rain that's going to produce a lot of ice on power lines and trees. The GFS throws you a bone in D.C., starts it off as snow, maybe a mixture, but man, you're barely hanging on. South of the city, I don't think it really has much of a chance. North of the city, you still keep your eyes on a significant winter storm. But the Delmarva, most of it is rain. It's a little bit colder on the GFS, brings heavy snow into Harrisburg, up into Philadelphia, a burst of heavy snow initially. Same thing with New York City, certainly northern New Jersey and those higher elevated regions. And you continue to move this through, and you're getting into Saturday night, waking up Sunday morning, and it is an all-out snowstorm about 2 hours north of New York City, Connecticut, Rhode Island. You keep this going, snowing very heavily all Sunday morning on the GFS. And you got this now, it's a stronger storm system on the GFS, a 988 millibar low. So therefore, you're getting heavier precipitation into southern New England in the form of very heavy snow. And if you continue to deepen this low, you're going to have issues with winds with this heavy snow. And I mean, you're getting into Sunday afternoon. This is really trending into a much more major event for southern New England. But you got snow getting all the way up into central New York. And you watch this back end energy. I'll back it up. This is in the form of probably some light snow showers throughout the Ohio Valley. And it's already kind of recranking back up, some northwest flow kind of enhancement in West Virginia. And, this heads on out. And it pretty much taps out by the time we get into Monday morning. So, a closer look at snowfall from the Euro. This is what it looks like. Not going to try to mention every single town and city here, but I'll mention a couple. DC, I'll mention right off the dot. Gives you about 0.4 of an inch of snow. Boone, Banner Elk, it tries to give you about 4 to 5 inches of snow. We'll see what happens with that. We'll talk about ice in a second. I think there'll be an area in West Virginia where you get over a half a foot of snow, and it likes this stripe kind of in central and east central Pennsylvania. But the Euro says, you're not going to get much in Baltimore or Philadelphia. You're going to have mixing issues, and I think you'll stay mainly rain. But hang tight. I can hear the frustration through the screen. Winter's not over. It's January 4th, guys. It's wild the amount of comments you get that says that. It's January 4th. You guys know better up here. You guys know you get some of your best winter storms in late January, even February, even March. European drops 8 to 9 inches of snow on Boston. But look, you're getting some hefty snowfall accumulations on the coastal regions of Maine also. What about the GFS? Man, it really slams you here. Gives you a foot and a half in Boston. Just widespread 12 to 18 inch snowfall totals across southern New England. You start to struggle with mixing around the immediate coastline. Now, there's a lot of local people in Boston and the National Weather Service keeping totals low, and I think that is because the relatively warm sea surface temperature. So please, when you look at this, don't say, Mitch said we're going to get 17.5 inches in Boston. You got to stick to your local people. What I do here is and that's one of my opinions. I think that the easterly flow from this low, wrapping around the north side of the slope, is going to make it hard for you to get a 10-to-1 ratio snowfalls in this area. But sometimes rates, meaning heavier snowfall rates, can overcome that. So we'll watch. I definitely think the southern half of New Jersey will struggle. You get into northern New Jersey, you guys in New Jersey know it's a different world in northern New Jersey compared to southern New Jersey. So you got higher elevated regions and all that good stuff. But man, this shows a big hit for Albany. Binghamton gives you 8 inches. So what about the National Weather Service? Well, let's go on and zoom in at some of these areas. The National Weather Service through just Sunday morning, remember, it's still snowing in some of these areas. You still got back end snow moving in. It doesn't like much of what it's showing with northern Kentucky with this snow I've kind of been showing you. It doesn't really show much love for Illinois or Indiana either. And I know you're thinking, well, you're cutting us off. Well, even if I showed you further north, there's not much. It dumps enough about a half an inch. You get into northern Kentucky, northeast Kentucky, someone might squeeze in an inch. This could change. Throws you a bone in the Cumberland Plateau with 1/10 of an inch of snow. But, the mountains of North Carolina, anywhere from 1 to 2 inches of snow. I think you'll struggle with a lot of ice. All right, you start to, let's look at the freezing rain down here. This is a serious thing. The National Weather Service in Greenville-Spartanburg, which covers this area of North Carolina, issued a statement on this. You got the winter storm watches. They said someone could get 3/10 of an inch of ice. When you start to get a 3/10 of an inch of an ice of freezing rain, that is ice storm criteria ice in these areas. So I wonder if we're going to get any ice storm warnings in this area of western North Carolina. But it tries to get of Glaze to Charlotte, 1/10 of an inch of ice in Shelby, Lincolnton. Hickory almost has you at a 1/4 inch of ice. Watch out, Statesville, Winston-Salem, glaze of ice up the valleys and higher elevations of West Virginia. So this is something we certainly need to watch. Now, moving a little bit further northeast, zoomed in regions, right out the dot. DC, Baltimore, you guys not getting really forecasting anything. They're giving you about 1/10 of an inch of snow in DC. We'll see what happens. But you get north, northwest, west of town, just like it always is with these kind of marginal winter storm events, meaning marginal cold air. A few inches of snow. I don't think this will be a huge event as far as snow. I think ice will cut down snowfall totals but a few to maybe as much as several inches of snow as possible. But remember, this goes out to Sunday morning. You got back end snow that's going to add into this from kind of the northwest pull around this low. But it likes this area. I'm going to try to mention a couple towns here really quick. It likes this area of southern Pennsylvania. Harrisburg, it gives you a few inches of snow. You start to get down to Hagerstown. That's always a favorite area. Gives you about 5 to 6 inches of snow, but you're right on the fringe of not getting a whole lot. So it's something you need to continue to get revised updates from. State College, gives you a couple inches of snow, but you start to move a little bit further up, and here it is. Northern New Jersey giving you about a half a foot of snow, and then you start to get into the Catskills, the Poconos, a good 6 to 10 inch snowfall event they're forecasting, but it's still snowing in some of these areas. You remember how it was showing like over a foot snowfall totals in like Albany? Well, the National Weather Service through Sunday morning, still snowing, I think, for some of these areas, 4 to 5 inches of snow. Binghamton, 4 inches of snow. So this is the National Weather Service forecast. But man, look at our folks in Connecticut, which, has struggled the last winter and a half. Hartford, they're going for 4 to 6 inches of snow right now. Waterbury, if that's how you pronounce it. I know up in New England, they pronounce things different. Same kind of deal. Springfield, 5 to 6 inches of snow. But, New York City, half inch of snow. That's the forecast right now, but this is going to change. We're still 48 to 72 hours away from this. You make your way into southern New England, and let's look at Mass here. Where are you? Right here. Notice this is through Sunday morning. They're not calling for any snow in Boston. The National Weather Service. I think that's wild, but here we are. But you go hour west of town. Berkshires, Worcester Hills, Wasta Hills, It's funny. It's hilarious how many people call it different things, even for you locals in southern New England. But anyways, we won't get into that again. Maybe we'll do that another time. But I mean, look at northern Rhode Island, 6 to 8 inches of snow. I think that this will fill in more. They'll increase your forecast, but I think they are worried about easterly winds into this area cutting off snowfall totals. So that's something to watch into this region. But we kind of zoom into this. You compare this to what the GFS is showing for this region. I mean, it's just totally different, right? National Weather Service through Sunday morning calling for nothing, really. You got what they're showing on the GFS, and we'll go all the way out to about Sunday evening, calling for 17 and a half inches for Boston. Huge difference. That's what we do here. We compare and contrast the model guidance. Now the year 06Z Euro is coming in. New Euro run throws you a bone near closer to New York City. It looks like the new Euro run, which just ran, comes in. Looks like it came in colder. Looks like it came in with more snow. Remember, it showed about 8 to 9 inches of snow on Boston. The new Euro run through Sunday evening, dropping a foot. So this is new information. In fact, we'll go on and look at the entire Northeast here, see what the new Euro run shows. And, I mean, it's not much different down here. You compare the new Euro run with the old Euro run, it increases some snowfall totals down here. We compare it with that, then we look at this. Look, a little jog south, a little bit more snow. And you look at Long Island. Long Island goes from nothing really to a few inches of snow. So there's some new coming to you live with new information there. So remember, a lot of these snows are not going to be 10-to-1 ratio though. But the Euro definitely came in a little bit more juiced and a little bit more south. So we'll see. My folks up in Maine, as of now, we're only into Sunday morning. You're already seeing a few inches of snow for southern Maine. You look at that Euro run we just showed you, and look at that. No, not centimeters. And it's still coming up, but big time snowfall totals adding up along the coastal regions of Maine where you guys have struggled this winter. All right, let's move past this storm system. We've been talking about it for about a year now. Here comes the big one behind it. You see this big area of energy right here. Watch as this chugs along, and then it loses that positive tilt and goes neutrally tilted. I said it right the first time. It starts to bend vertically. That means it's strengthening. And then it continues. Look at this huge area of energy, pulling up a lot of warm, moist air from the Gulf of Mexico. and a huge kinematic wind field. Kinematics meaning a lot of winds aloft, creating probably damaging wind event for someone. And then this begins to tilt to the right, which means it has a negative tilt. That means it's going to be a highly dynamic storm. So what does it look like for the central U.S. from the Euro? Here it goes. We'll kind of have to zoom through this a little quick. I do apologize. Got to get my girls to school. Monday afternoon, look at that snow falling across the panhandle of Oklahoma and Texas. Not much different from last night's run that I showed you. Heavy snow across central Kansas. Look at the heavy snow moving into southeast Nebraska. Iowa stays mainly rain on this version of the Euro. We're not in range of the 060 Euro, so we can't show you that. But you got a 992 millibar low working through Arkansas. That's definitely going to bring you all rain. And then as this is moving on, snow begins to move into Chicago, all rain for St. Louis, but then you switch to heavy snow, which is kind of new for St. Louis, where it was showing mainly rain last night. 979 millibar low. You know that's a mean low right there. Land low. Switches from rain to heavy snow in St. Louis. Even tries to switch you to snow in northern Arkansas. Peoria, heavy snow. Chicago, heavy snow. Trying to get up to Milwaukee, Great Lakes region. All right. And then this pulls on out and switches. It's a pretty substantial event for Chicago. What about the GFS? It's much further south and colder. Almost all of Kansas City, a big-time winter storm. This gets snow all the way into northern Arkansas. This starts you out of snow for St. Louis. This brings a swath of heavy snow Monday evening. I'm sorry I haven't been mentioning times. Remember, look up here if I forget to mention. This is getting into the evening of the 8th. Look at that heavy snow in St. Louis, even points south, getting close to the Boot Hill, Missouri. Back in heavy snow in Oklahoma, getting into Tuesday morning. Man, a lot going on, right? Huge, long, broad storm. And look at this heavy snow for southern, Illinois, southern Indiana, but it misses Chicago to the south. It does, and hits our neighbors to the south. And then this back end low with like an additional low forms and dumps heavy snow over northern Arkansas and southern Missouri as we're getting to Tuesday afternoon. And look at this back end, another round of heavy snow moves in Tuesday evening across areas of the Midwest and Ohio Valley. Not a forecast, and there's another system coming right behind it. But as far as the signal off the European ensemble, this is in 24-hour increments, and it's clear as day. It's right there. The European ensemble says, it's following the more northern route for heavy snow. So it really likes all of Kansas, the panhandle of Texas and Oklahoma, all of southeast Nebraska. It likes most of Iowa, a lot of Missouri, Kansas City. Gives you a few inch snowfall mean in St. Louis, solid snowfall mean into Chicago, Peoria, Rockford, all these areas, and then it heads on out. And then it really gets strong once you get into Michigan. All right, so we'll watch. And, as we get closer, guys, we will begin to show you and compare model guides, kind of like what we've been doing for the weekend storm, for that storm. We just got to get this storm right ahead of us out the way. But this evening, and what do we got here? Well, it looks like we're looking at the same storm, but we're not. Here it goes. We're looking at the European for this. I'm talking about this evening for next week. We're getting into next Monday evening. And look, you're starting out as a wintering mix. Again, deja vu. Overnight next Monday into Tuesday morning. I mean, starting off as kind of an all-out winter weather event. Next Tuesday morning, the 9th. And then we've already talked about this area. This is all rain. Could be severe weather. And we'll talk about that here in a second. Back in punch of cold air following behind it. And, you could start off as some winter weather in areas of the interior northeast, but you will switch to rain with a low riding right over the northeast and another low back here. But look at all this back end precipitation. Tries to switch to snow in Kentucky, certainly the Appalachian Mountains, but this is mainly a wind-driven rain event for southern New England. Could be a big winter storm getting into Quebec, Ontario. We got to watch. That's the latest Euro. What about the GFS? Wants to throw a more substantial winter weather event for Ohio, for the higher elevations and favorite areas of the Appalachian Mountains. Continues to move. And look, I mean, you're getting to the Tuesday evening next week. We've already talked about this. Look at this heavy snow in Detroit. You switch from snow to rain in Cleveland. Man, this is all over the place. Pittsburgh, you struggle with rain in this event. All snow. At first, heavy wet snow too. Shows about 1 million low pressures. Don't focus too much on that. Just look at the system as a whole, and then the models will start to resolve what low is actually going to be there. But heavy snow right at the start of this, based off the GFS. You keep this going. Look at this heavy thumping of front end thumping of wintry precipitation across the New England area, the Northeast region, and then look at the back end rain switching to snow all the way down to the mid-South. Man, and look at this event for Detroit. This begins to blast you with a big-time winter storm. And you go from heavy snow, heavy ice for the interior Northeast, back to rain, then maybe back to snow. Wild stuff, guys. It really is. What about the snowfall signal from this? Here it is. It's mainly for the Midwest, the Great Lakes region. Very heavy signal in Michigan. I mean, even northern Indiana, Chicago region. And then it starts to show up for the northern portions of the Ohio Valley and the interior Northeast for a snow signal too, especially once you get into the northern and the interior sections of New England. But that's a heavy signal for Ontario and Quebec and eastern Canada up here for sure. So we will talk more on this when we get closer. The severe weather threats is still there. Next Monday, you got a 15% risk of severe weather within 25 miles in any given location in this yellow area. What's concerning is they have added day 6 now, which is Tuesday, a 15% risk of severe weather next Tuesday for Savannah all the way down to Melbourne, Orlando, Tampa, almost down to Fort Myers, all the way down to or over to Dothan, Tallahassee, almost to Mobile. 15% risk of severe weather for Tuesday now within 25 miles in a given location. There's going to be a severe weather event with this. There's a lot to talk about, guys. And this is all because when this low, this trough, ejects and deepens and then becomes negatively tilted, this is going to bring a lot of warm, moist air from the Gulf of Mexico. You see this sector of dew points in the 60s and 50s. Once you get dew points in the 60s in January, mixed in with a high climatic environment, it's going to spell trouble. And really, we'll begin to zoom in on this closer here in the next few days into this weekend. But when you see these dew points like this in the 60s in a moving warm sector, you know something's going on. And the entire state of Florida, as we're getting into Tuesday morning, is under the influence of tropical warm air, moist air. And then dew points rise all the way into the 60s, into the Carolinas. Tuesday afternoon, you got to wonder if there's going to be a risk of severe weather all the way up into the Carolinas. I think there will be. As we get closer, they'll fine-tune the details in the area. But you mix that with, look at this trough, digging down, with multiple low pressures associated with it, takes on that neutral tilt right here in the southern plains. And I mean, already getting into Tuesday. I mean, already into Wednesday. Look at this, 70 to 85 knot mid-level jet with an associated very strong low-level jet. You're getting into Tuesday morning. Look at those winds increasing across Birmingham to Atlanta, the Cumberland Plateau, all the way up to Kentucky. Look at that tilt getting negatively tilted here. You don't like to see that for severe weather. You really don't. And you got winds 100, like 125 knot mid-level jet, guys. I mean, that's winds pumping in the higher levels of the atmosphere, guys. So low-level jet will be extreme. When you have such an excessive amount of wind energy with this, a lot of times storms want to go linear. There's a lot of lift in the atmosphere. So my bet with this is that you're going to have a nasty line of storms throughout the Deep South early next week. That is my take on what I think is going to happen. And I think there will be a risk of tornadoes, but I think damaging winds as of now with that nasty tilt that we're seeing right here is going to be the biggest threat. And I mean, even though you might not get severe storms up into southern New England, the mid-Atlantic, I do think sometime next week, midway next week, Tuesday into Wednesday, you're going to have a big time wind event with this, with all the heavy rain. Behind this, guys, and this is going to become a bigger topic. This is our storm system that we just talked about for next week. This moves in and then moves out, ejects across the eastern U.S., and then you got this mega trough showing out west. Big ridge builds into Alaska, dislodges the jet south, cold air associated with it. You got blocking over Greenland, the Arctic, and this is a huge trough. And the thing is this has ticked east overnight. I'm not ready to pull the trigger on an Arctic outbreak for anybody. But this is going to bring Arctic air into at least the western and kind of the northern plains of the U.S. But you keep this going, guys. You get 10 days out, and this does eventually move eastward. And I can tell you, the signal has lower pressure has been the trend for the eastern U.S. So that's good news for folks out east. But, you look at temperatures and responding to this trough digging down. This is next Wednesday morning. That is extremely cold Arctic air in Canada, Western Canada. It's cold. It's cooling down that cold air source. And then look how it oozes down into the Rockies. Could be your typical kind of blue northern kind of event. Look at this very cold air into the middle of the country. This could mean business for the western and central U.S. as we get into late next week. And then it kind of pushes eastward. So we'll continue to watch this, guys. I think this will be a bigger topic in the coming days. But we got a lot out in front of us to figure out first. God bless all y'all. Have a great Thursday, and I'll talk to you soon.